Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, taking a deep dive into this Texas A&M offense heading into 2023 and what is, in my opinion, a massive storyline. There are very few teams that can bang with the top dogs, have the firepower to bang with the top teams in the country. The Texas A&M Aggies are one of those few teams with that firepower. We've seen flashes of it. And now the next step for Jimbo Fisher, especially with this offense, bringing in Bobby Petrino, is taking all of that talent on the offensive side of the ball and putting it on the field. And again, if they do so, this is one of the best teams in all of college football. Now, before we get into it, just want to say one, thank you to you guys. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Helps us out in a meaningful way. But more importantly, let us know in the comment section what you guys think. The best part about doing these is hearing from you guys in the comment section, chopping it up about football. We learn a lot from you guys. So let us know in the comment section what you guys are thinking. Dill, I'm going to kick this one off to you. And you're not going to find many people higher on this Texas A&M offense than my brother. Dill, how you feel about this Aggies team, specifically on the offensive side of the ball, heading into 2023?
I think what people should be so excited about with the addition of Bobby Petrino to this offense is that I think what you've seen, and Andy Staples in The Athletic did a really good job kind of breaking this down, so go check that out if you're interested. But what you see with Jimbo Fisher, I think, for the last few years, or for a while, I would say going back to Florida State, is a guy who's kind of not really changed his offense much to his personnel. It's the Jimbo Fisher offense, no matter who's playing quarterback and no matter who's running back, wide receiver, they kind of run a similar system, and it hasn't really changed. You look at what Bobby Petrino's done over the course of his college career with offenses, is he's had unique different skill sets at quarterback, running back, wide receiver. I mean, you go back to the Brian Brom and Michael Bush-led offenses that ran the football a lot at Louisville. They were really effective there. Then you got Tyler Wilson and Ryan Mallett, both threw the ball a ton and were really effective. And then rounding it out with a guy in Lamar Jackson who's got a wildly unique skill set, and they won a Heisman together. So I think what you've seen is a guy in Bobby Petrino who can really put his players in a position to thrive no matter what their skill set is. It's not Bobby Petrino's offense. It's the offense that these guys can run and do a really good job with.
That is, I think, one of the most important aspects of being an offense coordinator is like you have that scheme, the scheme that you go to. But what really sets really great play callers apart is looking at this team, looking at the offense, looking at the personnel and saying, all right, we got guys who can do certain things. How can I, as the coordinator, as the play caller, put these guys in spots where they can be successful? And I think Jimbo Fisher had so much success at Florida State with Jameis Winston. It was like, okay, that offense is elite. I'm going to use that offense in every single year I have, every single team I have. I'm going to use that offense. And like, I mean, Jameis Winston was a special talent. That Florida State team was absolutely loaded. And Jimbo Fisher's been a little stubborn at times in terms of changing his offensive philosophy. I give him a lot of credit for going out and getting Bobby Petrino to kind of unlock this Texas A&M offense. And I think the next storyline for this Aggies offense is the talent. I mean, there is so much talent up and down this roster on the offensive side of the ball, starting at the quarterback position.
I mean, you look, and I got to think this is going to be Wigman's job, essentially. I mean, Max Johnson came in, he lighted up. I thought Wigman showed flashes of a much higher level play, a much higher talent level. And it'll just be about Wigman making those progressions to, again, not holding the football, being able to get it out on time and on rhythm. Because when they were doing that, and you go back to the LSU game where I felt like at times they were really doing that, and getting the ball to Evan Stewart quickly and these playmakers, and then hitting your shots downfield to guys like Moose Muhammad and company. That's when that offense looked really good. And I think Wigman's got that ability to play on time, on rhythm. Those really what makes it. I mean, we all know he can throw the ball. It's like he came out as a really high recruit, so you knew the arm talent was there. It'll just be about can he sharpen the skills as a quarterback, and I think Bobby Petrino is the guy to do it, along with still having Jimbo Fisher, who's an excellent coach in his own.
Yeah, I feel like people forget. It's like you now just have two really good. I feel like a lot of people, and this could be a reality where they just butt heads and they just want to scrap each other in the locker room. But there's also another possibility where you take two brilliant offensive-minded coaches and put it together and really produce a very efficient and effective offense. And I think that's what Aggie fans are obviously hoping for in 2023. My take on the quarterback room is go with the higher ceiling. Like this Texas A&M team, the standard is 10-plus wins, competing for SEC titles, competing for national titles. What quarterback puts you in a better spot to do that? It's Connor Wigman. I mean, the talent level's through the roof. Now, the good thing for Connor Wigman, Dale, I'll ask you this. Like, can you name a better wide receiver room in the SEC than Texas A&M Aggies?
The SEC, I would say certainly not. And I think
Ooh, LSU
honestly,
fans hopefully not listen.
I think you could make a very strong argument for this team against anyone in the country, and that includes Ohio State, who's kind of been the gold standard. I mean, and you just look Evan Stewart. I don't think he gets enough like put in the conversation of best wide receiver in the country. I mean, I get it. Marvin Harrison Jr. is great, and I'm not like arguing that. But Evan Stewart, in terms of dynamic skill set, like a guy who can both catch the ball down the field in traffic, contested catches, jump balls, he's got that part of his game. I also think what is like slept on in a sense, because that game part of his game is so good, is his ability to make plays with the ball in his hand. And I think that's what separates him from a lot of really good wideouts, is the ability to do both those things. And you look, I mean, he's a guy who can take a screen and take it to the house, or if he catches a quick slant in stride, if you will, he's a danger. I mean, that's a very unique game. I think that combination of skill sets. And again, I just don't think there's that many guys in the country who can do it like him.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to the Marvin Harrison Jr. argument, I'm not going to get up here and say he's better than Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't think a lot of Aggie fans would, but take it back to when Marvin Harrison Jr. was a true freshman. We barely saw him play. Now, partially that was due to a loaded Ohio State wide receiver room, but what Evan Stewart did as a true freshman, it's rare. And if he can take another step in year 2 and year 3, you're really looking at like kind of a bona fide top 10 pick in the NFL draft when he's ready to come out. Now, I said wide receiver room for a reason, because I think not only Evan Stewart's elite, but Moose Muhammad. You saw really good flashes of him, but my guy, he's been my guy for 2 years now, Aeneas Smith. I mean, you saw him taking reps at the running back spot. I mean, and that's kind of how I foresee him like using him. Just be an offensive weapon, like whether it's in the slot, whether it's out of the backfield. I want Smith touching the ball multiple times a game in space, and I think that's the best, the best way to use him. And then you look at a guy, Noah Thomas, who, if you read the spring practice notes, was the best wide receiver in spring camp, which, I mean, that's really – he's playing better than Evan Stewart. I feel pretty damn good about what Noah Thomas is going to look like. A very good tight end room, even though Donovan Green seems to be missing the season. Though I want to talk about probably the biggest storyline of the Texas A&M defense, or Texas A&M offense heading into 2023. And that's his offensive line getting better. 6.5% sack rate last year for Texas A&M quarterbacks. Not good. My take on this offensive line is they got the guys. Can Steve Adazio and crew get this group to kind of take that step in 2023?
I know, and I feel like I've heard some like rumblings, like Trey Zune, like people are out on him a little bit. It's like, I mean, you look at him, Dewberry, Bryce Foster, like
Cam Dewberry's very good.
Very young players last year. I mean, Cam Dewberry was a star. I think everyone kind of knows he's going to go be an NFL player. Trey Zune has the ability. I mean, you look to be that athletic at that size. Again, maybe needs to get a little stronger, but he's a guy he's got the build, the frame, the talent to be a really good left tackle. And if he just ups his game, Bryce Foster was very solid and steady at that center spot last year. And then, frankly, you do have a lot of young guys who might play a lot of football. Chase Basant has obviously looked awesome in the spring game. And frankly, you're starting to hear some rumblings of Crown over at right tackle too. And if he, again, another guy who's super talented, if these guys are ready to go at young ages, I think you feel pretty good. Because again, you do have a lot of guys coming back on that right side as more experienced players with Fathery and Robinson. But man, if a young guy can go step in, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
My take, like you see some fans like Michigan State saying like, we just talked Michigan State, this offensive line's got to take steps in 2023. Well, like, sorry to tell you, Spartan fans, but all those guys were fifth-year dudes going into their sixth-year COVID eligibility year. You know what they are. Like, are you going to take a step as a six-year guy at the college football level? I mean, you're not optimistic that they will. In Texas A&M's case, like a bunch of these guys were second, third-year guys that you kind of expect to take a step heading into 2023, and I think that's where the optimism comes from this Texas A&M offense, specifically this offensive line, is a lot of these guys are young. A lot of these guys you would expect to take a big step into their second and third years of playing. And let's get to, I mean, we talk about the wide receiver room being talented. In this running back room, I know on the surface, the national media like say, what is this Texas A&M running back room going to look like? You lose Devon Achane. If you don't follow recruiting, maybe you don't know it's going to be good. This Texas A&M run back room is going to be pretty damn good.
I mean, you got three excellent running backs across junior, sophomore, freshman with Amari Daniels, Le'Veon Moss, and Ruben Owens. I let Amari Daniels, frankly. I'm almost surprised he didn't get more play last year.
Me too.
Again, Devin A. Chain was awesome, but they ran him a ton. He's not necessarily the biggest player. I think this year, frankly, you're going to have a little bit more of a physical room, possibly a more physical attack. And if this offensive line can take care of business and make their jump, I think this running game is going to be just fine and maybe add a new element in terms of being able to beat some teams down a little bit physically.
Going back to that, Devon Chain got so much work, and I think it was because Texas A&M could not find an explosive play to save their life besides turning around, giving the football to the fastest guy on the field. I kind of agree in the sense that this running back room now, I think, fits this Texas A&M offense a little bit better. I mean, you saw Devon Chain trying to run like he was a 200-plus pound back. That wasn't his game. He was just really, really good running back. These guys, I think, kind of fit what Texas A&M wants to do on the ground a little bit more. And that's another story. It starts with the offensive line. If you can keep the quarterback clean and establish a run game, I have a ton of confidence that Connor Wigman, with a strong run game and strong protection, can get the ball to these playmakers. And if that happens, if this offensive line comes together, you're going to see a massive explosion of this Texas A&M offense. And the last thing I want to close out on, you mentioned kind of a larger scope take on this Texas A&M offense. I need them to treat Evan Stewart like a wide receiver one. And I mean, when he is on the field, he needs to be peppered with footballs because he's the best player. He's going to be the best player on the field in multiple games in the SEC. I mean, that's how good Evan Stewart is. And I want them kind of like Marvin Harrison Jr. gets treated at Ohio State. When we need to play, we're going to Evan Stewart. Know who your guys are. Know how to get the ball to them. And I think that's going to be your biggest change with Bobby Petrino. I think he's coming in and going to be kind of force feeding the guys who are the playmakers. And for this Texas A&M offense, I think that's going to be a massive help.
Yeah, and that'll be it. I mean, at the end of the day, I think you got two things. I think you need this offensive line to play a lot better football because, frankly, no matter what was going on with anyone else, that unit just probably wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And then you need Connor Wigman to just make that jump. I mean, I thought Connor Wigman was a fine player last year, but if those two things can happen, I just think you have no doubt about the pass catchers, no doubt about the running backs. I think this offense will be really, really good because those skill guys are just so talented.
This Aggies offense. I mean, we've talked about the defense. It's going to be good. This Aggies offense is a sleeping giant. And if it wakes up, I really do think the college football world, country should be on notice. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. Let us know in the comment section what you guys think. And, of course, if you do enjoy the content, you want to support the boys, consider subscribing to the channel. And we'll talk to y'all